So I meant to talk about this for a while, but shit in life just held me up, and I just needed to be in a great state of mind in order to talk about it. But this caught my attention. When will Star Wars fans be happy? And apparently, this is part of some podcast from the woman who played Bo-Katan. God bless her. But no, I think it's very important to get into this with the current state of the franchise at this godforsaken time. So, yeah, I'm gonna play it and give my 2 cents about it because exactly what I have to say in particular is of the utmost importance. And yes, this is coming from me because I know a lot of Star Wars enthusiasts out there set their piece, but I think it's just as important for someone who isn't as deep into the lore as the next guy who watched all the movies, read all the comic books and novels, and played all the games. No, I think it's just important that someone like me talks about this as someone who isn't as deep in the rabbit hole as the next guy. So, yeah, I'm just gonna play right now and give my 2 cents about it.
I was so intimidated by the amount of work that I had
Right.
and the amount of the story that they had given me
Right.
and this like faith that they had in me.
And John is a monster, isn't he? He's
John,
like, I don't want you here, Katie. Get out of here.
he's amazing. Yeah,
That's
right.
Yeah.
And so I have said this many times that he held my hand through that season
Oh, dude.
because I got pep talks all the time.
He was an actor. He gets
He
it.
was amazing the entire time. And just like, he was like, you were right for this role the moment we hired you.
Mhm.
Just do what you do
Yeah.
as Bo. You know this character better than anybody. Just do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I was like, okay, okay. But he did. He believed in me so much, and I leaned on that multiple times
Yes.
because there were times where my mind would start to run, and I would get ahead of myself, and I would get into what people were going to say and what they were going to think of my performance.
Because it's Star Wars and everyone's going to see
Because
it.
everyone's going to say something. It's
Everyone's
Star Wars.
going to say something.
Everyone's going to have an opinion.
Yeah.
And going in, you can't win them all.
No.
So I knew going in, I was split. You know that. You know there's going to be a group of people that think you're terrible. And that if you allow that to get into your head,
Well,
for me anyway, it can be a self-fulfilling
can
prophecy.
actually fuck you up on set.
Mhm.
You know what's interesting about Star Wars is you don't know for 10 or 20 years. You could be like, oh, we blew it. And then you find out 10 or 20 years later, like, no, it's beloved. And you're like, what? My buddy David Collins, who is the reason I'm here, by the way, because David Collins, who started at LucasArts, that's where he started interning at Skywalker, and then he was on the sound department at LucasArts. And they'd created this painting of Starkiller.
I was going to ask you if this is how you got Starkiller.
Yeah, and it looked like me. It didn't look exactly like me, but it looked enough like me. And David then slipped my headshot in the pile to be considered for auditions. So it's all on him that I'm even here. David then went on to play Proxy because he was filling in. They were going to it was hilarious. I can say it now. They were talking about no, we're eventually going to get like Seth Green or something like that to do this assassin droid that's like your best friend. So he's supposed to be super friendly, but he's constantly trying to kill you, but he's super friendly. It's a droid that Vader designed to mess with your mind. And David was filling in, but he played it perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
So suddenly a bunch of us were like, dude, just give it to David. You're only going to direct another actor to do what David's already doing.
Yeah.
So David, anyway, went on to do all kinds of different sound stuff, and now he's over at Skywalker. He was the sound designer for season 3 of Mandalorian.
Yes.
He's done a whole bunch of other stuff. But this is all. What was the point of what I was saying?
We were talking about Starkiller and how you got the job,
Right?
And this is how you showed up, and then you said there was a proxy about it, and that you got him a job.
Yeah. So he. But there was a greater point. You were talking. Oh. So David Collins talks about. Because, you do these Star Wars projects, and certainly around the prequels, suddenly everyone was sounding off about how they felt about Star Wars. Oh, it's George Lucas ruined my childhood, stuff like that. And David always felt like, oh, what sucks is I feel like I got into Star Wars after it was ruling the world, and we're working on a prequel game. Oh, we just got trashed in the reviews. Everyone hates us. Oh, I worked really hard as my first lead sound design, and it's this game called Republic Commando. And oh, look, okay, we failed. The reviewers hated, and he would be beaten down by that experience. And then you jump ahead 10 years or 20 years, and Republic Commandos are everywhere at cons. They're in the shows now. They're all over the place. And this is where we started learning, like, no, you don't know for 10 or 20 years. Clone Wars, you know how many times we were told how much time we were wasting? It's a terrible show. It's terrible. Why are you even doing this?
It's for kids. I don't understand. It's so stupid.
It's so stupid. And then some decade later, we come back to finish the show, and suddenly, oh my God, you were in Clone Wars? And these are like heavy hitters, showrunners, big shows going, you were in Clone Wars. Oh my God, Clone Wars. Tell us all about Clone Wars. And you're like, this was the little show that everyone told us we were wasting our time on.
Yeah.
And George had really lost the plot, man. And George doesn't know what he's doing and all this. So you don't know. So that's the fun thing is like, you seem to be escaping unscathed even now. So I think in the 10 or 20 years,
they'll hate me.
It's going to be, no. They generally only
they don't
go with that. They doesn't generally fall into,
They don't go the other direction.
Fine. I think
Thank
you're
God.
fine.
So first off, I just want to say right now that Star Wars is quite possibly the biggest cinema series out there, bigger than any cinema series out there, whether it be based off of an idea or based off of a long running novel series. So bigger than Twilight, bigger than Harry Potter, possibly bigger than Star Trek. And people have voiced their opinions about it, especially after the Clone Wars saga, because I'm pretty sure that's what divided the fandom in the first place. Because you go from episodes 4, 5, and 6. I mean, back in the day, it was just called Star Wars, and then Empire Strikes Back, and then Return of the Jedi. And then we go back to episodes 1, 2, and 3 with how Star Wars implemented politics, democracy, and how that democracy slowly became a dictatorship. And all the while introducing characters like Jar Jar Binks, which everyone didn't like, or most people didn't like, as well as midichlorians, which I'm pretty sure just bewildered most people. Because, when you hear the term midichlorians and you think to yourself, that's what causes the Force? And honestly, yeah, I mean, there has to be an origin for everything. Like, what causes the Force to, be a thing? So you get that. And then you get what happens in between. And that, to me, is the most interesting part of Star Wars is what happens in between the original 6 films. What happens between episodes 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 3 and 4, and so on and so forth. And that's where the cartoons come in. Clone Wars, the Clone Wars, Rebels, and even other movies like Rogue One. So expanding on what we already have, to me, is where Star Wars shines the best after the movies came out. But on the topic of the movies, when it comes to actually making them, obviously that's going to be a huge topic of discussion and has been a huge topic of discussion because that's exactly what's ruining the series right now after George sold it. And again, I'm not going to blame George Lucas for selling it because dude is in his 80s and he's retired. He did hand them, Bob Iger and Kathleen Kennedy, his sequel trilogy, his 7, 8, and 9. And instead of just using his sequel trilogy, what ended up happening when Disney bought Lucasfilm is they made their own 7, 8, and 9 with no plan whatsoever. And when that became apparent, a lot of people did not take the sorrow news to heart when Daisy Ridley said that she didn't know anything about her character because they didn't know. Like J.J. Abrams didn't know how to write this character, basically. Like they didn't know. And then Rian Johnson split the fandom saying that's the kind of movie he wanted to make. But the big question is why? Like, why would you want to make a movie that's divisive? To me, that's actually the worst thing you could possibly do. Why can't you just focus on making a good product instead of just dividing the fandom and then causing a civil war? Because to me, that's the worst. And for these idiots, it's the best. And then Rian Johnson is lying about his sequel trilogy. It's not going to happen because it's been, a decade after he said that and still nothing. So just to make this easy, when will Star Wars fans be happy? And to me, it's not about happiness because happiness doesn't exist. Happiness is just a delusion. The only way to get this series back on track to where it needs to be so that people can stop speaking ill will about it is to initiate a complete overhaul. And it needs to happen because at the rate that this series is going, it's passing the gates of Gehenna at this point. And that became apparent when idiots like Leslie Headland showed up and wrote the story, and she couldn't even comprehend her own writing. Or maybe she did comprehend it, and then she tried to justify it in whatever bullshit terms she can. The Acolyte, her story is filled to the brim with contradictions, and then she tries to bullshit her way into explaining each and every one. There's actual articles out there, there's an actual interview of her talking about it too. This woman does not know how to write. And she was given not $180 million, no, she was given 230 million to write this show. When you have people either writing, directing, show running, and of course acting, of course you got to bring your A game because when you're adapting on a long running series like Star Wars, you have no choice but to bring your A game. Never shirk your work, ever, for any reason. And that's exactly what is happening here with all these TV shows, like the Kenobi show, where that was originally supposed to be a trilogy of films and the writing was so much better because you had Kenobi partnering up with Cody and Kenobi learning more about his destiny and how he was going to support Luke in the long run. Perfect. Instead, we get Leia being chased by bandits, Kenobi running away from Darth Vader, and Kenobi hiding Leia in a big ass coat. That's the show that we ended up getting on Disney Plus. At that point, you just got to ask yourself, is Disney even capable of pleasing the fans? Are they even capable of doing this series justice? Are they capable of respecting George Lucas? Are they even capable of doing that? And let the record show from the moment they bought it all the way to right now. And clearly the answer is no. And for people like me who was fed up with it even before The Acolyte ever debuted on Disney Plus, we just said no. I did not give The Acolyte a chance. Tales of the Empire was as far as I'm going to go, and I'm still willing to give Star Wars Outlaws a chance and see what the hell is going on with that game because I've heard nothing but bad things about it, and for good reason because Ubisoft is also not doing a good job either. Okay, we have the movies, we have the animations. What matters most is writing a good story that fits in the overall lore, books included, because now we're bringing the books into this, what people call legends, because now we're taking characters like Thrawn and Asajj Ventress and even other characters that I wasn't privy to from the books. Now they're coming into TV shows, and now I'm being introduced to them, and I'm not even going to know their actual debut that came from a novel. So now I have books to read, and that's not really a bad thing. You know, I do read books, but these are books that I didn't even know about that are now being adapted on the screen and seeing them getting butchered the way that they have been, whether it be, I want to say, Asajj Ventress' appearance in Bad Batch or what Thrawn did in Ahsoka. That pretty much prompted me to just read the books and just not watch these TV shows. So Skeleton Crew, I'm obviously not going to give that a chance. And whatever future Star Wars projects, I'm not going to give it a chance because look what happened. And they honestly think that whatever new projects are coming out, that's going to please the fans or that's going to put a series in the right direction. And honestly, no, it's not. Nobody wants to see episodes 10, 11, and 12 starring Ray. And people who were done with The Mandalorian after season 3 honestly don't want to see the movie. Or maybe they want to give it a chance to see if The Mandalorian as a series can redeem itself. But the truth of the matter is, what needs to happen more than anything is a complete overhaul of this series so that way it goes on the right track where it needs to be. The same quality that George Lucas put out ever since the 1970s all the way to 2005 when Revenge of the Sith came out. That's what people want out of Star Wars more than anything. They want what George Lucas wanted. And if you're going to adapt the books, then they need to adapt it accurately because I've seen what happens when you adapt something and then you just fuck it up completely. So, with all this in mind, the only way that Star Wars fans can truly be, well, not happy, the only way that Star Wars fans can enjoy Star Wars again, is what I would say, not be happy with it, is when there are people running this series who know what the fuck they're doing. And so far, Nobody in Lucasfilm under Disney's leadership has what it takes. People want to see this series succeed. They want to see good things from this series, not constantly being spoon fed just the same usual shit from different people who clearly don't know what they're doing and don't know how to plan accordingly. And that's the honest to God truth. Again, it's not us because they keep blaming us. It's them. And if Star Wars is just going to be their tool just to push whatever agenda that they want to push on other people, then they have no right to work on their series anymore. Hell, they had no right to work on the series from the very beginning if this is their intention. Give this series to someone else. $4 billion wasted. All because they want to push some dumbass agenda and piss off a lot of people and put the blame on them. I'd rather have a series run by people who know what they're doing rather than a series run by fucking idiots.